Thank you, Roshi, and thank you, everyone. Um, Roshi said I'm a priest of the Archdiocese. Well, 2 weeks ago, I retired formally, and 1 week ago, I moved, to a whole new parish. St. Monica's on the east side. So a lot of disruption. Um, and today is also in the Catholic liturgy, the Feast of the Exaltation of the Cross, which is also a symbol of the challenges and disruptions and upheavals. Partly it's a symbol of that in our lives. Now, of course, retirement or a move is, infinitesimal, minuscule compared to, the real crosses and challenges that we meet, like disease or war or uh, natural disasters. But all these things do remind us that this is life. The fundamental truth of impermanence, for example, fundamental truth of life and therefore of Zen. And also the fact that we're not in control, in case you didn't know that. We can delude ourselves sometimes into thinking that I'm in control. I mean, everything is cozy, everything is smooth. But of course, we're never in control. And these events remind us of that propitiously. And that's a fundamental truth in Richard Rohr's Rites of Passage retreat, for example. You are not in control. You have to be reminded of that. But I have a number of quotes that really bring this home, because it's a gift, actually. It's an advantage. It's not some disadvantage of life. So this is from Pema Chodron, or however you say her name, Padma Choskron, the American Tibetan Buddhist nun who's 88 years old now. I wrote this down 2 years ago when I did my last move. She said, to be fully alive, fully human, and completely awake is to be continually thrown out of the nest. To live fully is to be always in no man's land. To experience each moment as completely new and fresh. To live is to be willing to die over and over again. Dying with Christ, dying is a moment by moment thing. As one koan puts it, you go downstairs, you die, you make the coffee, you die, you drink the coffee, you die. So it's to be fully alive is to be able to do that moment by moment. And even more, perhaps, shockingly radical way of expressing it is this from Carolyn Myss, who's a contemporary spiritual writer, as you may know. This is from the Page a Day Zen calendar in June this year. She says, the moment you come to trust chaos, you see God clearly. The moment you come to trust chaos, you see God clearly. She says, chaos is divine order. Well, think of the whole universe. How much chaos is in the universe? From the Big Bang onward, these tiny little bits of order, in our sense, are rare and far between. But divine order is chaos, so she says. So change is divine order versus human order. The ego hates change, human hate change, but chaos and change is divine order. So she concludes, when the chaos becomes safety to you, then you know you're seeing God clearly. Well, that's pretty astounding. It's when chaos becomes safety to you, then you know you're seeing God clearly. Or in terms of trials, this is from John O'Donohue. He says, often it takes a huge crisis or trauma to crack the dead shell that has grown ever more solid around us. Painful as that can be, he says, it does resurrect the longing of the neglected soul. It wakes us up in that sense. He says, it makes a clearance. Again, we can see the horizons and feel their attraction. Though we may wince with vulnerability. That's a good phrase. Though we may wince with vulnerability as we taste the exhilaration of freedom, we feel alive. So in a sense, it's in those liminal spaces, those critical moments, that we're really alive, and we can wake up to being fully alive. There are a couple of koans that come to mind to illustrate this. I'm going to use two, both from the Mamonkan. And the first one is number 5, Kyogen's Man Up a Tree. So Master Kyogen said, "It's like a man up a tree who hangs from a branch by his mouth." That's a really good image for life. Our lives. We're actually hanging from a tree by our mouth. That's how precarious it is. It goes on. So the koan says, "His hands cannot grasp a bough, his feet cannot touch the tree." He's just hanging there. So it continues. "Another man comes under the tree and asks him the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West. In other words, what's the meaning of life? And he's hanging from a tree by his mouth. So it says, if he does not answer, he does not meet the questioner's need, which we have to do. But if he answers, it says, he will lose his life. So at such a time, how should he answer? Well, if he lets go and answers with, some eloquent thing, well, then he's losing his life anyway, in another sense, spiritually. Ramon's commentary, which immediately follows, illustrates this. He says, "Even though your eloquence flows like a river, it's all to no avail. Even if you can expound the great Tripitaka, it's of no use." He says, if you can really answer it, you will revive the dead and kill the living. So a real answer will revive the dead, which most people we start with, and kill the living. And if you're living in your comfortable, realm, then you need to die. So the real answer will revive the dead and kill the living. So if he does answer and loses his life by dropping from the tree, well, he's going to die. Then that's the whole lesson. That's the whole point. To die is the answer. So that's a very colorful and graphic way of putting it, of expressing it. The other one is the more famous one towards the end, number 46, which is the stepping forward from the top of a 100-foot pole. You probably know this one. It's very expressive. So the master says, "From the top of a pole 100 feet high, how do you step forward?" Okay, so you're already done all that work in life, the meditation, reaching some level of enlightenment. You're on top of the 100-foot pole. It's like, in our Christian tradition, the Simon Stylites, the ascetics that actually sat at the top of the pole, and that was their whole practice. Anyway, it goes on. So an ancient master said that one sitting at the top of a pole 100 feet high, even if he has attained it, quotes, in other words, if he's already attained some enlightenment up on the 100 feet, he has not yet been truly enlightened. He must step forward from the top of the pole 100 feet high. And that's when we really live, as we just heard. That's when we're really alive, when we're completely out of control. And the koan concludes, he must step from the top of the 100-foot pole and manifest his whole body in the 10 directions. See, that's the thing. When you're not clinging to anything, when you have no support, when you can't grasp onto anything familiar and consoling and that human level, that's when you manifest your whole body in the 10 directions, when you become the Buddha or the cosmic Christ, the whole body in the 10 directions, the whole universe, because you're not clinging to anything. You're not settled, even on the top of a 100-foot pole. You're leaping. And that's when the whole body can manifest in the 10 directions. For the past 25 years, I've had this picture on my dresser. Hope you can see it. You can get sorry for the glare there. But as you can see, it's the picture of a young man leaping, diving, completely vulnerable. Looks like he's at a beach or something on Coney Island or something, but you can't see where he's leaping from. And you can't even see what he's diving into. He's just leaping. Not off the diving board, but off the top of a 100-foot pole, really. But look at his attitude. He's exhilarated. He's delighted. He's full of joy. He's unbounded. He's joining, 10 body, the whole body in the 10 directions. So that's a great symbol for life. That's why I've had it on my dresser for 25 years. This is what life should be every day. You're leaping from you know not where, you're going where you know not where, you just know that it's wonderful. It's like Jesus said about the Holy Spirit and the one who lives by the Spirit in John 3. He says, you might hear the sound of the Spirit, but you don't know where it's coming from, and you don't know where it's going. So is everyone who lives by the Spirit, who has that exhilaration and joy in life. And notice, by the way, it's also cruciform, right? It's like a crucifixion. And, the Christian mystics through the centuries have meditated on the cross and said part of it is that Christ's arms are outstretched in every direction to embrace the whole world, the whole universe, which is exactly what we just said. The whole body in the 10 directions. And that's what, even the death, final cross, death will be that, our manifesting in the 10 directions if we really let go. If we've died before you die, you won't die when you die. If you're dying every day, as we just said, from premature, then we'll be ready for that ultimate death. And we're thinking of that now, are we not, with the memorial service for Sensei Tim this weekend. And, Cindy Tabener up in Providence, who's also very seriously ill, just reminds us of our final journey, which should be exhilarating. However, we might wince with the vulnerability of it. And however painful it might be, that's when we're truly alive. Thank you.